Our roads are full of uncertainties, and all of us are often exposed to multiple risks across modes of transport. On a grim Sunday in July 2021, Ritesh, a toddler who was riding on a motorcycle with his parents, lost his life in a road crash on the Noida Expressway. Both Ritesh and his 24-year-old mother Pooja were riding without helmets and died on the spot. His father, a 30-year-old BSF constable, was a lone survivor of the incident, and he was the only one wearing a helmet. Little Ritesh and his mother too might have survived if they had each been wearing the protective headgear. In May 2022, the Honorable Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, when speaking about road safety situation in India, called road crashes, quote, an epidemic confronting India, unquote. The crash numbers before us, year after year, are harrowing to say the least. For instance, of the approximately 1.5 lakh fatalities registered in 2021 alone, the non-use of helmets caused 46,593 of them, or 30.2% of the total deaths. Welcome to Milestones, the Save Life podcast with me, Karthik Nagarajan. This is a show where we discuss various aspects of road safety with the aim of ultimately working towards safer roads and a safer India. I'm your host, Karthik Nagarajan, and today we're joined on this show by Mr. Kunal Joshi, who is serving as the Principal Consultant to the Honorable Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Government of India. Mr. Joshi is driving policies on road safety, vehicular safety, alternate fuels, and regulating the automobile sector on emissions, while specializing in the field of political economy surrounding these subjects in India. He is leading advancements in transport safety and has been instrumental in introducing the auto safety regime through flagship programs such as the Car Safety Rating System, also known as Bharat NCAP, and other initiatives. He is also steering various initiatives to promote road safety and drive behavioral change among road users. Mr. Joshi has a background in electronics engineering with a Master's of Public Administration degree from the London School of Economics. Mr. Joshi, welcome to the show. Mr. Joshi, let's begin the conversation, with your thoughts on what I had just mentioned, in the introduction as what the Honorable Road Transport and Highway Minister said about road crashes being, quote unquote, an epidemic confronting India. Would you agree with this?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
this is a problem that has been out there for a long, long time, and we need a strategic approach to look at all facets of this particular problem. And this is a serious one. In fact, we're losing almost 1.5 lakh people every year to road
Hmm.
accidents, and more than around 3.5 lakh people are getting injured every year. Uh, at this particular juncture, the kind of data that we assess shows us that the age group in which we lose these people are in the productive age group of 18 to 45.
Hmm.
That not only poses a huge socio-economic loss at the level of the GDP or at the macroeconomic level, but more than that, it is also a serious concern because these accidents, let alone fatalities, but even grave injuries that happen. I mean, they leave the families of they leave the affected families in a debilitated state. Uh, in a lot of cases, the sole breadwinner, either we lose them to accidents or they are sort of injured in a manner that they cannot go and resume work. Uh, Road safety is pushing people back into poverty as well. So it's a problem that is affecting all income levels in this particular economy, which is why yes, certainly it is an epidemic, and which is why it is not only the government who will have to sort of come forward and sort of help us address the issue, but it is more of a social problem wherein you need stakeholders from all sections of the society to tackle this one.
It goes beyond just what happens on the road. It has a lot of other implications as well, societal as well as economic. From your vantage point, when you look at all this data, what, according to you, are some of the primary reasons leading to these crashes and, of course, subsequent injuries as well?
As far as the reasons are concerned, Karthik, there are, when does a road accident happen, or rather, we should rather say, when does uh, rather a road crash happen? I think we have to sort of change the terminology here as well, because in India we've been conditioned to use the word accident in this particular case. Now we firmly believe that we have to move towards using the word, crash. The word accident sort of implicitly implies that this is something that happened all of a sudden or could have been avoided. But the word crash is a more scientific term where it attributes the reason behind that particular incident towards certain stakeholders or towards certain reasons that were present at that particular juncture whenever that incident takes place. So as to say, if we were to analyze the reasons behind road crashes in India, there are multiple reasons that are responsible. uh, Road engineering, vehicle engineering, mixed usage of roads, uh, human traffic conflict, behavioral aspects of cities of the road users who are using the roads. There are multiple reasons as well. I mean, non-enforcement of the law in the way it should have been enforced, or rather, citizens themselves driving the vehicles in an inappropriate manner. The multiple reasons, if you were to dig upon it, but the way in which the government is looking on to solving this problem is identifying, or rather making buckets out of all these reasons, and then approaching them onto in a sort of a strategic manner, and interventions that would, as I've earlier mentioned, would require inputs and efforts from stakeholders at all levels.
Yeah. If you can just develop on, on that, you started talking about what some of the steps the ministry is taking. What are some of the road safety policies and programs currently implemented or being planned by the ministry?
Right. So as I said, we are looking at the four E's of road safety primarily, namely engineering is the first E, which sort of encompasses vehicle engineering and road engineering. Then you have education. Education is the sort of efforts where we are trying to sort of inculcate, disciplined road usage among the road users. Then you have enforcement, which is an sort of an extremely critical pillar, wherein we are trying to get hold on to the state governments and them to sort of enforce the law in the true letter and spirit. And the fourth E being emergency medical care. Uh,
Right.
to to sort of start with the first E, that is road engineering. Whenever a road is built, it is built upon a particular set of standards or a rule book, which is usually derived from the DPR, which is a detailed project report, through which a particular road is designed as per the standards of the Indian Road Congress. Now, whenever and wherever there are deviations which are observed, that there are certain deviations from the set standard, there have to be certain corrective measures that have to be adopted while tackling that particular issue. But what has largely also been a problem in India is mixed usage of roads. A road crash happens largely when there is a human and traffic conflict, and a human traffic conflict happens where there are different categories of road users at different speeds, and that too conflicting with each other. That is when a particular road a crash happens. There are always certain amount of points on the highways where or junctions you would see that there are a large number of accidents that are reported. In technical terms, in the ministry and in NHAI, we call them as black spots. Now, black spots are spots on roads where, over a period of time, data is collected and it is found to be that there are a certain number of fatalities that have been happening on that particular spot. We then denote that particular spot as a black spot. We conduct investigations so as to what is the category of the conflict and what is the level of the human traffic conflict happening at that particular area, and then we try and sort of solve those issues as as per the technical recommendations that are given to this particular ministry. So if at all a solution was to be found out for this. So a mass scale solution needs to be found out, wherein you are touching onto every aspect of this particular problem statement, and it is only then would you realize that yes, there is a considerable amount of drop. If you were to only sort of treat the discipline among the drivers, let's say, and if the road intersection is faulty, you'd still have accidents or you'd still have crashes
Mm.
at that particular site. If the road intersection is faulty in itself, no matter the best drivers that you get there, there's still chances of a crash happening out there. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to touch all aspects of the problem simultaneously, affix responsibilities to all the stakeholders that are responsible to tackle that particular problem, and then
Right.
sort of go ahead. So just like a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, we need something like a Sadak Suraksha Abhiyan at a national level, wherein all these aspects are dealt with on a large scale at a simultaneous level. And this is a network effect. Only it would require people from all classes, all segments of the society to come together and act upon it, because you cannot only have the safe systems approach into place wherein you assume that someone else would be making a mistake on the roads and I have to be safe to drive myself. So you need everyone at the right places doing the right thing while on the roads. So, yeah.
Just to build on that, the thought you just mentioned of a national movement, like what we're doing for cleanliness, makes a lot of sense, right? It's almost like everyone feels this idea should have happened by now, right? Um, you also, mentioned in India is a very large, very fast growing automotive market, and hence the disconnect you mentioned between extraordinarily slow moving vehicles and this seems like a very unique Indian problem, right? I'm assuming an equally unique Indian problem is also the fact that uh, while there are great legislations, executing them will be a huge challenge, right? Especially
Yeah.
in a country like this. What can you double click on that and tell us some of the challenges you're facing in terms of when it comes to actual execution of the legislations?
So the system, again, this is slightly technical. Pardon me for that, but the way the system in governance is set up is such that the Constitution of India clearly states that there are three sort of lists in which the subjects or the matters are dealt with at different levels in this country. So, first is the union list, wherein a particular matter is solely dealt with by the central government or the union government. The second is the state list, where a particular matter is purely dealt with by the particular state government. And the third one is the concurrent list, wherein a particular subject is dealt in both by the central and the state level governments. So, transport is such a subject which is a concurrent list subject as per the Constitution of India, 7th schedule, wherein both the center and the state governments have the power to legislate. Now, one would ask the question, how does this actually work like? The way it works is the union government actually legislates in terms of making the rules and gives a certain set of a leeway to the state governments while implementing that particular set of rules. To give you an example, the Motor Vehicle Act was amended in 2019 after 30 long years. The Motor Vehicle Act was originally passed in the Parliament of India in 1988, and after that it was then amended after almost 30 good years in 2019. While we did that, it sort of struck a lot of headlines, wherein the amount of fines were sort of skyrocketed from 500 rupees to 5,000 rupees in case of helmets not being worn or in case of seat belts not being worn, and so on and so forth. So the way in which this whole system of enforcement of the law works is like this: that the central government tells you that, okay, look, this is the offense, this is the punishment for that offense, and the punishment for that offense, the central government gives a range. कि आप you can sort of punish the people who have not followed the law with a fine ranging from, let's say, rupees 1,000 rupees to 5,000 rupees, and the state then takes a call so as to what exactly they have to prescribe onto that particular section of the act. The reason behind this is because any sort of money that is collected from such fines goes into the kitty of the state governments, and the central government does not have any ownership over that. So again, coming back to the point, uh, the way in which this whole system is designed is such that the central government makes the laws, and it has to greatly rely upon the state governments to enforce the laws in the true letter and spirit. So we, as in sitting in the union government level, have a challenge of designing a particular system in a manner that the incentives and the disincentives for all the stakeholders are designed again in a manner where they act upon promptly to do something that should be done. Because otherwise, I mean, excessive fining is a political deterrent. I mean, it's a sort of, it doesn't take rocket science to tell you that excessive fining would go negatively for any particular state government in
Hmm.
power, but rather the law or the fines that are put in place are just a disincentive for a particular offense to happen. But the questions that we should be asking is, have we put in any incentives on the ground via the policies and the frameworks so as to lead the people in the right direction, so as to follow the right thing on the roads, right? Disincentives and the incentives, the structure has to be balanced, wherein the governments can do the right thing without worrying about what is politically correct or what is politically incorrect.
The Motor Vehicles Amendment Act 2019 has led to many positive changes when it comes to addressing road safety scenario in India. This includes the formation of a road safety board, the rules around usage of child safety equipment, including child helmets, and aspect of adult accountability, among various other such measures. You mentioned that landmark step, which is of the Motor Vehicles Amendment Act 2019 after 30 years. Um, since then, what do you see as an impact, of that amendment of that act being passed?
The I think the best part about the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act is that that act changed the way in which we were looking at road safety as a subject. Earlier, it used to so happen that if at all there is a road crash that happens, the way in which the government used to look at it is, okay, who is the victim and who is the sort of the accused here, who has caused a particular impact. So it always used to be either of the two. But after this Motor Vehicle Amendment Act, we have increased the gamut, the technical gamut of looking at a particular road fatal or a road crash that happens on the road, wherein we are in a position to affix responsibilities to different aspects of that particular incident. To give you an example, the vehicle design be very well faulty for a particular road crash to take place. A road intersection could very well be a faultily designed road intersection for a particular accident to take place. So पहले ऐसा होता था that in an accident it was any sort of an accused was rather disproportionately judged for
Hmm.
a crime that he was being sort of booked for. But today, the amount and the gamut in which we are able to sort of look at this particular subject, we are looking at all aspects. We are looking at the vehicle, we are looking at the tires of the vehicle, we are looking at the safety systems, restraint systems that are being used in the vehicle as possible sort of reasons behind any fatality if that were to happen. We are looking behind a sort of a faulty construction practice on the road that may be there. We are looking at departures from the standard Indian Road Congress codes or standard DPRs that should have been followed while the road was being constructed. And if all of this is not done, or let's say if all of this is not being faulty, there are penal provisions even to sort of penalize these stakeholders. There are explicit sections in the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act wherein the contractors or the concessionaires who are sort of building those particular roads, if there is a departure, or if there is a proven departure from the standards or the codes or the way in which these sort of roads were to be built, there are provisions through which these sort of contractors could be booked. This was never existent in India. Similarly, if there are provisions, or if we find out that there are sort of uh, if there is evidence which sort of leads to a position where a particular vehicle does not is not the way it should have already been during its type approval stages. And if there is a certain departure from that angle as well, there is a provision of vehicle recall as well, wherein the government can order a vehicle recall, that look, and tell to the car company that look, this is faulty, you need to change this and recall the complete batch of your cars. So again, the point that I'm trying to make here is the a fixation of responsibilities in terms of road crashes and road fatalities here has increased, wherein a large amount of stakeholders are being put on are into the radar in terms of any particular road incident that happens. And this is only possible because of the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act, because the act allows for that lens through which you could see road safety in India.
The sheer magnitude of the road safety problem confronting our nation makes it instrumental for various state governments and the central government to work collaboratively on it. It is not a concern that a single stakeholder can tackle by themselves or a particular government agency may handle on their own without the wholehearted support of everyone, including all types of road users. The more you speak, the more we're all able to appreciate the complexity of it. In fact,
Yeah,
you mentioned the concurrent nature of the state and central governments in an
yeah,
earlier answer. But I'm assuming there are a lot of other stakeholders here as well. How
yeah.
do you, as a ministry, collaborate with other government agencies, NGOs, and even private sector organizations to address road safety challenges?
Right. In the scale of the problem is such, Karthik, that it requires proactive monitoring, proactive redressal of issues, and sort of proactive and preemptive sort of interventions are meant to be taken rather than certain reactive steps. You always see that the countries like US or even Australia for that matter, these have agencies such as the National Transportation Safety Board, Federal Highway Administration, stuff like that, who carry out investigations after a particular incident that takes place, derive sort of recommendations from that particular issue, and then suggest certain policy changes. The Indian government is also on the same lines, establishing something like a national road safety board, wherein we also intend to do the same things. We intend to give a statutory power to this particular board and ensure that the best practices of road safety are followed across India in a true literal spirit. But while we are doing so, I also mentioned that this issue is such that would require interventions from all sections and all levels of the society. The government machinery is limited, can only look at only certain points at one point of time, but the scale at which this problem exists today, a large scale cooperation from non-profits, from agencies which are dedicatedly working in this area, from agencies which bear the technical expertise to suggest any sort of technical recommendations, behavioral recommendations, communication strategies that can go out to the people. I mean, all of this is something that needs to be done proactively with agencies. The minister who now has the distinction of serving as the longest transport minister in India, longest serving transport minister in India, Mr. Nitin Gadkari. He has been a minister for 9 years. He is extremely sensitive. He's extremely sensitive about this issue of road safety and uh, preventing road fatalities. He The policy directions under which this whole ministry has been progressing so far, things are very clear to us. We have to welcome help and take help from anyone and everyone who's available to sort of assist us with the capacity through which we are operating out of. If there's someone who wants to assist us with the capacity in terms of suggesting improvements to certain junctions that are faulty, suggesting certain improvements in automobile engineering, our doors are always open. In fact, a very good example is Save Life Foundation itself. The ministry has partnered with Save Life Foundation, wherein Save Life Foundation uh, gives us advice on the best practices that are required onto certain roads. In fact, the ministry has also given stretches of national highways to Save Life Foundation to convert them into the zero fatality stretches, wherein they have got sort of huge success across India, wherein they have observed more than 50% reduction of road crashes and fatalities as well. So we sort of acknowledge that we might not be good at everything and anything that we are doing, and there are gaps at each level. So if there are agencies who wish to come and sort of work along with us, we are more than happy to accommodate them and pick up from the strengths of all these agencies and work towards this mission.
That is actually, so refreshing and also so hopeful to hear, right? The openness of the ministry to sort of work with anybody who feels they can add more value to it. And I think a challenge like this definitely needs all hands on deck. I would feel, right? Um, on the same lines, what are some of the future plans that one can expect from the ministry with regard to road safety? Are there any new initiatives or strategies in the pipeline?
Glad that you asked this question, because again, one of the major issues, or rather two of the major issues that we're working on, I'll take them one by one. First one is the automobile safety regime. Automobile safety is something that we are sort of aggressively working on in this ministry right now. So this ministry also regulates the automobiles under the aegis of emissions and safety and passenger convenience. The Indian automobile market, Karthik, is a huge market. It is the third largest passenger vehicle industry in the world. The turnover of this industry is around 8 lakh crores. 4 lakh crore import is being generated by this by this sector. And the sector directly or indirectly employs around 4 crore people. Given the size and scale of this whole sector, we have to understand that the population to which this particular sector is catering to is so huge that this we are producing the best of the automobile technologies in India, that exists in the world. There's nothing that is there outside and we don't have it, in a nutshell. But while doing so, there are certain key questions that we have to ask ourselves: that are we ensuring that the passengers in the sitting in the cars at the lowest segment are as safe as sitting as in the cars that they are sitting in a high end car, essentially? What we want to probably ask is, are we ensuring that vehicular safety, or rather road safety, is only meant for the rich people? And while sort of trying to gauge this answer, we sort of found out that there also need to be certain incentives in place for the sector, for the people who are buying these cars, wherein they are pushed to buy safer cars for themselves. As you might know, Karthik, there's something called as star automobile cars rating, star rating for cars, essentially. It's called the NCAP, or the New Car Assessment Program. The global NCAP is essentially it's an organization which conducts crash tests for cars and certifies uh, these cars based upon the occupant safety, the adult occupant safety, the pedestrian occupant safety, the child occupant safety. In India, we do not have this culture yet, wherein people sort of start buying, automobiles based upon the safety rating that they offer, because primarily or historically, this whole automobile market has been a cost sensitive market and not a quality sensitive market. But now, with more and more Indian OEMs sort of ensuring a modal shift towards this, we are now seeing that a lot of Indian cars, a majority rather from the OEMs in India, they're going out in global NCAP and they're getting good star ratings. But while doing so, we did realize that we need our own star rating system, wherein we push the OEMs to produce better cars, to export better cars outside India, and also give information to the potential car users or car buyers, wherein they know what they are buying, right? The second is, we are coming up with a massive behavioral change campaign for road safety in India. We believe firmly that road safety is largely a behavioral issue as well. As much as it is a technical issue, it is also a behavioral issue. uh, we feel that we don't value our lives enough as much as we should before going on the roads. It is this recklessness from our side which causes us to, cross the roads from any point but not the zebra crossing. It is this recklessness which sort of lets us to sort of overspeed, knowing that the speed limit is 60 but we go on 100. It is this recklessness that sort of uh, makes us ask our friend, yaar, teen log bitha lo bike pe, and three people or even four people in certain cases, ride on two wheelers, and it's highly unsafe. While we sort of studied this, we deployed a team of experts and we found out that a great deal of behavioral aspect also is involved here, wherein people sort of take these decisions willingly to sort of break the law, and they sort of try and give themselves the benefit of doubt ki chalta hai, nothing would happen, and I get through. But this is heavily risky, and no matter how much you try to solve this from a technical angle, change the fine from 5,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees, I mean, you don't want to live in that particular sort of a ecosystem wherein you're sort of only extracting fines from citizens. You would rather want behavioral, responsible usage of roads by citizens themselves, and you'd really want to avoid this sort of excessive fining. So to sort of deal with the root cause, we are designing a behavioral change campaign for road safety, wherein education would be a great sort of a sort of aspect of this whole campaign, and education not only for them who are in schools right now, but in an innovative manner, in the way in which it hits you. We'd be sort of disseminating certain facts and certain figures or certain trends that you and me see on Indian roads daily, that would hit you and probably sort of would hopefully propel you towards changing your behavior in the way you've been using roads.
When you're talking about the behavioral change, the thing that comes to my mind, and I'm sure all of us have seen this, is people will go through so much pain to carry that helmet. If you're a two-wheeler driver,
Yeah,
in your on your elbow, on your petrol tank, etc., and it wouldn't occur to them that they should just wear it. It's just
yeah,
simpler. And it's not something that you do only because you'll get fined, right? It's much
yeah,
more at
yeah,
stake here. From that perspective, Stoshi, while it gives us a lot of reassurance on the automotive safety part, the campaign I think will go a long way into changing people's perspectives. Stoshi, thank you so much for such an insightful conversation. Also, thank you to the extraordinary work you and the ministry are doing in keeping our roads safe. Thanks for your time.
thank you so much, Karthik.
That brings us to the end of today's episode of Milestones, the Save Life podcast. My name is Karthik Nagarajan, and if you've been tuning in and feel that road safety deserves way more attention than it gets, please do consider sharing this episode with your family and friends. Do also review us on whichever podcast app you're listening to us on. If you're watching this on YouTube, do leave a comment to let us know what you would like to see us cover next. For more on all things road safety, please visit Save Life Foundation's website at www.savelifefoundation.org or any of its social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you again next week.
I V M